right, there was Hunter Holloman, of course, from Americans for Safe Access.
Great call.
Fascinating, interesting. All right, so let's go around the room real quick. We're going to wrap it up. We're like crossing over the line into the extra time frame. We're going to keep it light and wrap. I'm going to switch sides. 810 callers.
Light and airy.
Hold on, 810, you're on the air. I know you've been waiting all night. Please identify yourself and welcome to Clinic Rangers.
Hi there.
Hi there.
How are you?
Thanks for calling in.
Doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. I'm a cannabis patient. Cured my terminal stage 4 innumerable tumors, bone cancer, liver cancer, mets from breast cancer originally. Stopped chemo. I used it the first 2 times, excuse me. The third time with my recurrence, used cannabis oil. I am now cancer-free.
All right.
You know, I'm so glad you called in, and I know, we won't mention your name if you don't want to. And I had talked about your experience coming forward and testifying in another case, and I've talked about it for many, many weeks after those days, just of the courage that you showed in coming and telling your story, and just the miracle of of what had happened and how it impacted you, and just the integrity by which you told your story. And I know it's not something that you go around telling. You're an individual that is inspiring to live. I know you're inspired. Like, I had to kind of talk to you to come in and complain about that you were sick and had cancer, and that was not something that you did. And don't, because you were cured of it, and you told your story, and it's fascinating. Explain a little more detail. There was a point in time, and I've described this as such a unique situation where your oncologist had essentially told you get a will and make peace with your friends.
Told me to prepare to get my things in order and to get my children and spend the rest of the time I had with them. And
right.
I wasn't interested in that. I went home, and through endless tears, I got online and I typed in the word miracle, because that's the only thing that was going to save me, and that's exactly what I found.
And go ahead, keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, what I did was I discovered the Michigan Cannabis Cancer Project. I reached out to them, and I learned exactly what it was going to take to save my life, and I followed their advice to the letter, and it's working. I should have, if I had followed my doctor's advice, probably about this time last year was when they told me I'd be cashing in my ticket. And I'm healthy. I work full-time. I'm taking care of my daughter by myself. There's absolutely nothing holding me back. I can do absolutely everything I could do before cancer. And it's because of this plant.
I know that, and I hate to mix such a wonderful miracle story and even bring any part about the law into it, because it seems so dirty, such a pure truth that gets. But in the case, and after you testified, and I remember that you it was your oncologist herself, if I recall correctly, who was the signer of your medical marijuana certification, right?
Correct. Yes.
And this issue comes up legally because it's someone who has no more. Like there could be no more of a specifically defined bona fide doctor-patient relationship. This is a doctor who's treating you for your cancer, who had pretty much stopped, said there's nothing else they could do for you, and then signed your medical marijuana certification. And not doing it as a pot shot doctor, not doing it as for you who were doctor shopping for exclusively looking for a medical marijuana doctor. They recommended it because they had nothing else for you and wanted nothing to do with you after that. They would have signed a recommendation. I joke when I tell the story. They would have signed one for LSD, for heroin, for whatever. Whatever. Go ahead. Whatever you want. Here you go. Because they had no intentions of seeing you in a short period of time. I mean, that was
Right.
impressive. There was like an absolute cutoff from anything. And you turned and found the cannabis oil, and you tell this unbelievable story how. And you go back and see the oncologist, is that right? Or did you change? You may have changed, I think, right? Well,
I had to change because the hospital sent her to another city 2 hours away. So I had to change that. It wasn't by choice because she was phenomenal. But I had to switch to another doctor, and he doesn't hold the same belief that she does. But with my story and him watching what's happening with me, he is changing his mind. He just today I seen him, and he asked me, "Can you get me reports? Can you get me other stories on other people I'd like to learn?" And that's why I keep talking, and that's why I called your show, and I'm going to the Cannabis conference in Chicago next weekend, because everyone needs to know this. Everyone needs to know the miracle that I found so they can apply it to their own lives. And like you said earlier, the government and the law being involved in it and being so dirty, I'm afraid every day that there's going to be a knock on my door because I'm so vocal about it. I'm afraid that someone's going to try to stop me from taking my medicine, and that has to change.
It's right. I mean, the whole point of it was for people. I mean, I don't know if you, again, I don't want to talk dirty on the radio, but talking about that opinion, it was there was not one part of any, there was such authentic individuals who were relying upon cannabis to treat their debilitating conditions. It's so, like, if not for these individuals, if not for individuals that are telling your story, having the, unequivocal documentation of these diagnoses and interactions with doctors over a long period of time to suggest that, it's not lawful. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. We've gotten to it's interesting, and I'd be curious to know how you would respond, because you did have and you're oncologist, you have a great deal of respect for. I know she was amazed, if I recall, of the changes in your overall body, composition of the cancer, and made many comments, encouraged you to continue, but then she got moved, and you're seeing someone else, and they need to be convinced a little, is what I'm understanding. But talk a little bit about the first, the doctor that was excited, and what was the reaction? Explain how that happened over time. I just explained this, a moment that sticks out of my mind where it just seems so, that, okay, sure, here's a certification, we can't do anything for you, good luck, and we'll see, and then you're back. Like, you're not going away. You're back, and
oh, did I lose you?
No, I can say, but explain if you can you hear me okay?
No, I can, yeah.
Okay. Explain, if you can, that experience when, your last visit at the doctor is not one that is generating a lot of positive optimism. You return as a matter of course, and evaluating your medical, blood tests or whatever they're examining, there's a change. Explain that moment with the doctor, and how that conversation happens.
Well, when I had my original PET scan, when I found out that the cancer had returned, the PET scan showed so many tumors that they just didn't count them all. They couldn't. Went to see her. We got, a game plan of what I could do to ease my suffering and to take care of my passing, I guess. The visit that you said was unpleasant was very unpleasant. We just sat at a table, and she looked at me and my family and basically said, okay, this is it. And so when I asked her, I said, this is really what's going to kill me? She told me, well, unless you get hit by a bus first. So that was terrible. I went home, cried, found out that there was these other cures that I could attempt. She signed off. 3 months later, got the next PET scan, and she was marveled by the fact that they were almost all gone. And
how long was the period of treatment in between? Like 6 months?
About 3 months.
Okay.
3 months, so that was it. I continued to take the oil every day. I've lessened the dosage. I'm on a maintenance dosage now, but PET scans after that just got better until the last one I had was negative. It was a negative PET scan. There was no cancer anywhere in my body. So the conversation that we had was she was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe that everything was fine. I mean, it's like I am right now. She just didn't have any words for it.
Right. I mean, yeah, because think about it from a purely medical perspective. I mean, the medical advice, the recommendation, the guidance, the strategy of treatment was decided. It was definitive. It had been told, and that doesn't happen. Where they then have to recheck it and think about it differently. I mean, it's such a miracle. So at that point, there was a couple. So it's just a mere 3 months afterwards, she sees that she's blown away, and then shortly after that is when you two part ways because of geographics, if I recall. And now you're with this new doctor, different location, who is supervising your post-cancer in remission or no more period of treatment. And you see him or her every few months?
We're at every 3 weeks right now. We're expanding to a month visits.
So how does that go when you go in and speak to the new doctor? Hi, doctor, I'm here. I'm switching. You're going to be my oncologist. And and even though coming to you as an oncologist, I'm seeking treatment for cancer defined by your specialty, I don't have it anymore. But you can see in my records, I have medical records that reflect that I have a cancer that is incurable, and I had it. It was diagnosed, and I'm here now in front of you, seeking you to take me on as your patient, and I don't have cancer anymore. So what do you have to say about that? And what does he say to that?
What he does is he checks my blood work every time we go in for markers. He sends me for my PET scans. But what I've done is I've talked to him about just believing me and understanding this treatment is what's doing it. The things that he say make me think that ego is the hardest thing for us to get over, and him believing what I have to say, because he keeps saying things like, well, I don't know if we can give that credit, or I'd like to believe it was us that cured you, which does it really matter when we're saving lives? So just today he asked me if I would start bringing him studies, because the more he sees me, the more he understands that, yeah, this girl is healthy now, and it's because she's doing this. And it was unbelievable to me that he didn't want to hear it at first. Why, you're a guy that wants to cure cancer, why don't you want to hear that, look, this is doing it? But he's slowly coming around because the evidence is right in front of him. Every 3 weeks I walk in that door.
I'm going to make a case for why it is right now. And this is not something I believe in, but I'm just going to throw something out there. The medical profession, they practice in terms of liability to a certain degree, trying to get the best medicine, and they're trained to treat a certain way. This is the way it's been going on in medical school. You go to medical school to become learned in the treatment of the human, body, mind, what have you, and there's a methodology by which individuals are wired during this period of their, evolutionary growth as physicians. When they become physicians, there's a way that they're taught, and a way to diagnose things, and a way that there's a treatment plan. And there's not a lot of room, and this has been described by other doctors, to, individually, try to cure someone of anything. It's like, okay, I got 100 patients. I'm a cancer doctor. I know that, there's 2 or 3 different things, and these are the kind of side effects that are going to happen. We're going to do this, and, we make it 5 years. It's a win. If it's 5 years and 1 day, it's a win. And that's it. And they've got their own dynamics in terms of what is success and what isn't success, and what they can really do. And the limitations on that thinking are built in. Like, the ego is not so much that he didn't cure it. It's just that it can be cured, and he never believed it. That he's been fooled and trained that there's no way to do it, and that he's got to capitulate to the idea that 5 years and 1 day is a success. And he can't even realize in his own, competitive brain that he, has the capacity to actually
be better.
Be better.
He's always going to be judged by other physicians.
Yeah.
Even in a court of law, they'll always bring a physician as an expert against him. And it's...
You got to talk dirty law? We're talking...
I'm kidding. This is why it comes down to this with doctors at this point, I think.
Well, I just wonder,
like... It would be amazing if we could start to get them to understand.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Is this new doctor, has he confirmed and signed your recommendation? I mean, is he will he or?
Will he? I think that we're on that road to getting him to believe that it's necessary and useful. I don't know if walking into his office the first day he would have, but I think that when it comes time for me to renew, possibility that he will.
Another question I think would be important to all this is seeing your medical history as he examines you and sees you to oversee your health. He's not telling you to stop. I mean, you're reporting to him that you're using X amount of oil every day, and you're explaining that to him. He's not saying to you stop.
We talk about it every time.
So, yeah. And his recommendation is what?
Keep doing what I'm doing because it's working.
Does he take notes in his chart about the oil and stuff, things like that?
He does, yes. And it's now when I walk in, the nurses are starting to talk to me about it. The health aides that check me in are starting to ask me questions. In fact, the nurse that was doing my vitals today asked me on the side, she says, Laura, do you think this would help me sleep? I have terrible insomnia.
Yes.
So they're starting to understand and come to me a little bit. And I am an expert in no way. In no way at all. All I know is what I can look up myself and read about, and people are starting to come to me, and I direct them to the websites that I go to or the people that I know that they can talk to that are real experts.
Well, listen, you know that this is a fascinating topic, and you know that I've had a tremendous amount of passion for, this issue and, helping John in this cause, and I'm still fighting. It's crazy. I don't even want to bother you with the shenanigans. Your superstar truth-telling will not go in vain. But I want to tell you that as you go forward and represent as a miracle that drawing all this interest, whatever I can do, whatever Chad can do, whatever Jamie and Rick at the Compassion Chronicles can do, in terms of anything you need, in terms of talking, helping, providing articles, doctors in touch with other doctors. If they want to talk to a lawyer, I'd be more than happy to talk to them. If they're interested in pursuing it, mention that if you would, if they're interested. And I would love to help in any way that I can. And I know everyone here in the studio is, I've been blown away. I can't tell you, there was weeks and weeks afterwards that I was just talking about the event, and it's an area within medicine that you don't really get a lot of exposure to. It's one of those things that's kind of swept under the rug. Like those events at the end of it, it's not talked about. Like you don't hear it being that harsh and that cold and it's that lonely that there isn't. Those things aren't spoken about. You gotta do what you gotta do, and you gotta go out and make it right. And you did, and you were like a power mama bear. You were not gonna. And it is inspiring. But I felt that. I felt that cold. I felt I didn't feel it the way you did, obviously, but it affected me for a few. I'm a lawyer, and there's a lot of medical involvement here. It was just a whole new level of just a really awful part of the medical, system that is just not right. And anyways. But you were the heroic one. Your whole spirit of the whole thing, and the other patients, really was phenomenal. And I'm telling you, it's such a case for the ages. You know what I mean? It really is. And I don't mean that like bringing the law into, but it was the collection of people that came and told their story of having a similar impact. They were all, terminally ill patients, and and had the same experiences within the healthcare system. They all were, whatever. Go make, spend time with your kids, or make friends with your enemy, and get a will. That was like the voice of this so-called medical community, and there was salvage in belief, hope, which the other institution did not offer. They were
and John absolutely gave all of us that were there, that hope. That he, not to put it lightly, but gave us our lives. And that's why I was there, for him and for everybody else that deserves to know this.
Well, you are so articulate, and it's such a fantastic story. We're going to have you as a regular on the show. I'm sorry. You thought it was just going to be one phone call? You are booked for, we just did our 200th episode. You're in for another 200. Count it.
I'm in, Michael. Thank you.
I'm so glad you called. I'm so glad that I saw you've been on the whole time, and I know I reached out to John to try to get in touch with you, and I'm so glad we got a chance to talk, and really congratulations. And you're very inspiring, and I really hope we can talk to you frequently and hear these stories, and because people do need to hear it, and you are really fascinating and inspiring. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
All right, have a great night.
Thank you, Michael. You too.
Bye-bye. Well, there you go. There you go. Should there be any questions anymore? Rick? You were always against the... Okay.
Always against the...
I'm just playing. You're not against anything.
Yeah. What a great patient testimonial. In this election year, we'll have I think an accelerated opportunity for people to get that message out. I believe that it is a campaign issue. Certainly, it will be if we make it that way, and I believe that it should be. We're going to have senators for 4 years and House reps for a couple years. We will need strong voices like this in media, and certainly that patient is it's sad to say, but she's a perfect example of why we fight.
How about a perfect example of why the voters voted for Michigan medical marijuana? I mean, was there ever a person other than that individual that just spoke that situation?
That the act was meant for.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and here's the thing, too. She's got a great story, and that means that she is who we would envision this act to be. But to what degree is a person suffering make them that role model? If their suffering is just minimal at this time, does that mean that they're less deserving? I think everybody that's a patient, regardless of what Senator Jones says, everybody that's a patient is entitled to that degree of appreciation for their ailment.
A physician has stated in all of these cases, and that is really what is the point here.
That's what the card was originally intended to represent. That's what membership in the unfortunate group of people who happen to be sick enough to be members of the medical marijuana community have proven. And this is really what we need to have our legislators communicate to law enforcement, because they don't seem to be getting the message from us. Neither do the court systems as well. So the judicial elections will be just as significant as the legislative ones. We should. We talked earlier today about the 420 slate, as it's sometimes referred to, the voting sheet that we'd like everyone to follow, who to vote for that supports cannabis law reform in a way that we would appreciate it. And this year, in 2014, there will be a lot of people on that list, because there's a lot of people out that appreciate medical cannabis, and because we'll be able to send some questionnaires out to those candidates and find out who is. I chronicled the 2012 election, and I chronicled the 2013 election, local elections. And it was surprising to me the number of city council candidates or county commissioner candidates that were having no problem outing themselves as being marijuana supporters. I expect to see that trend continue, especially as Hunter pointed out, as it no longer appears to be damaging to your political career to let your true feelings be known. We'll see a lot more true feelings. Good music.
All right, we're going to shut it down. I think it's been 24 minutes over our normal time, but I'm so glad. Jamie, we're allowed that we get to buy that extra time back?
I need about 16 minutes. First, I need to collect my thoughts. A couple songs.
You ready to do your guitar solo to this?
You should.
Well, I want to thank all the guests. It was a very inspirational night, and especially at the end there.
The live reports from Washington D.C. delivered by Hunter. Nobody else is giving you that stuff, guys.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
that's up to the second information.
I like the way that Hunter is able to, in a very strategic, diplomatic, but almost like sports competitive way, undress his opponents. You know what I mean? It's clear, this is who our people were fighting with. You know what I mean?
They're doing it, but they look stupid doing it.
Yeah. They keep showing those uniforms and they're dirty. They got those silly hats, and they keep talking about, But that was a good, because we were able to identify who the opposition is, and
we get a great deal of law enforcement opposition here, obviously too. That's who emerges always at the last minute to try to get another bite at the apple every single time, and they really shouldn't even get one when it comes down to it.
What's interesting about our discussion and our guests is that this election is going to be critical, like every election is. It's off season. Certain parties seem to prevail in these eras.
Well,
Republicans.
We've heard that too. It's curious that you mentioned that, Chad, because there were several stories this evening about other states that are going through similar difficulties as us. And again, as a state, we are doomed to a bad destiny if we don't learn from the mistakes of others. Lots of other places can see, have had these difficulties, and we can see trouble coming. So. We do want a revolution, Michael.
Mellow like this. Mellow.
Safer Mission and Mark Brewer fighting for the process that allows us to get here.
I was encouraged.
Fantastic.
What is the deal with trying to take away people's rights to vote?
Watchdogs, Seriously.
That's an issue that doesn't it cross over into medical marijuana? The Voters' Rights Act and all the...
Oh, it really does.
It's so offensive to me.
We would not have this without that process.
Can we take that issue up?
Protecting
the hypocrisy
that
of...
process is important.
Seriously.
Not all states have the petition process either. Not all states allow.
No, but some of the voter ID laws, for the polls having a license... Or ID and not just the voter card, like exclusions and legislation exclusions of the rules at the. What am I talking about? Someone help me out.
Election law. We've seen a lot of alterations of things.
Eligibility for voting.
Even to go back to the gerrymandering of the districts. That's a way of voter manipulation where you're not intimidating someone not to vote, but you're just counting the votes in a different way that favors your party. That's also a perturbation of that whole same thing that you're talking about, Michael. It is pervasive in American society nowadays. But again, it's a similar issue to ours. Just like the fully informed jury, the Fiji people, with jury nullification is also related to our cause as well. The threat of jury nullification exists, and I have to believe that in some instances it may drive some cases to a better conclusion because of it. There are so many crossover social justice issues here.
There's certainly a lot of elements in most marijuana cases, and if they make it in front of a jury with the truth being able to be told, there's not much grounds for a jury to come together on a conviction, I don't think.
Certainly is a lot of resistance from keeping this information from a jury. There must be a good reason for it. I know in conversations with with people that there have been experts hired by Oakland County to assess the likelihood of a turnout of a jury trial. I guess jury selection experts are sometimes hired to assess these things, and in this particular case, it was determined that they would likely lose. And I know that they settled or dismissed.
Sure, that's a.
Do we know what case that was?
He doesn't have permission to release the information publicly, so perhaps off air we'll talk about that maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah. Again, another perfect example of the Planet Green Tree staff. Being right there. We've talked about these things. We're living it. We're trying to save people from falling into the same traps that others have already. 201 episodes. just about in the can.
Every week it's better than the next.
201.
201. Mark Brewer. Listen,
Great show.
I know a lot of people may not appreciate, but it was less than a year ago, perhaps a year and a half ago, that Mark Brewer was the chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party, and would probably be
for 19 years,
and be a very unlikely Planet Green Trees guest at that time.
Extremely unlikely.
So it's fantastic to have, first of all, a relevant reason to have him on the radio, and then what a candid interview. He was very, very rough about Mr. Schuette, and he listed out multiple issues that he'd had with the administration from the Attorney General's office. Now, I understand that that's just a tiger not changing his stripes. He's still on the attack against the Republican Party. But in our instance, those things strike home. And when we see that Bill Schuette's issued opinion after opinion, and he's obstructed justice in Chesterfield Township and used nuisance laws, and he did his whole tour. You all remember this? Remember when Bill Schuette got on the Wicked Witch of the West broomstick and ran around the state spreading his anti-marijuana lies with his fake doctor and all that stuff? This isn't the only issue upon which he has behaved in a clownish manner, shall we call it? And it makes much more real to me the possibility that he can be defeated by Totten, because each one of those stories of buffoonery, of assholery,
it's a new big segment of Totten voters.
Right.
Anybody but Schuette voters.
Right. Every single story, every time he said something stupid against women, or the refusing parole for juvenile lifers, any of those issues that strikes a hope, especially most recently and probably most memorably the gay marriage thing.
Yeah.
That's going to be a residual image that he has and that he won't be able to overcome, in my personal opinion. I honestly believe Mark Totten can defeat Bill Schuette in November, and I am willing to throw my support behind him, as I have. I know that we've attended some shower rallies. Totten rallies are on my list to do in the month of June.
For sure better than the alternatives, no doubt.
Speaking of events, we've got that a major golf outing that's coming up, too. We've got the normal golf outing in Jackson, right, which is coming up this weekend. At the end of the show, we usually like to talk about some calendar events. Jamie?
June 5th is a Safer Mich Coalition fundraiser at Dominic's in Ann Arbor.
Yep, and Green versus Ferguson tomorrow at 10:30 in Jackson. If you are a member of the Human Solution, you probably already know that. But that's a court case going on tomorrow featuring friend of this program and frequent guest Steve Green of Free Brie fame.
What kind of case is it?
That is a continuation of the trial, I believe, in the custody case regarding Maria Green and her ex-husband, Ronnie Ferguson. And Bree will be making a courtroom appearance, I found out from social media.
Well, I wish him the best. And it's such a terrible thing when kids get dragged into court. It makes me sick.
It is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Hey, by the way, I'd like to make a personal appeal too. The Cannabis, which has made so many appearances across Michigan in the last 12 months. By the way, Jamie, it's been 12 months almost exactly to the day that we went down to West Virginia for the Duval hearing. To Ohio, rather, Cincinnati. Remember that? Stacey Theus told me that. The Cannabis is broken down, looking for some donations in order to help it. Check out the Facebook pages for the Cannabis or the greenbustour.com in order to contribute or to find out more information.
All right, end this.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for freeing us. And to all you listeners, thank you so much for listening. We will see and be with you next week. Be safe.